Okay, to all my new Facebook friends, I have to thank Mrs. Junta in the back for starting a little Facebook chain this afternoon. For those of you that are not Facebook friends of mine, probably before the end of the night you will be, so no worries. One of the neat things about tonight, being able to talk about the accolades of 3 really great student athletes here at Felician and one tremendous coach, is now to take a step back and put that coach's hat back on and be able to kind of share what a great ride 19 young women took me and 3 really great people on in 2001. But it wasn't just 2001, and I think what needs to be said about the 2001 women's soccer team did not start in 2001. I started my coaching career in the sport of soccer at Bergen Catholic High School as a freshman boys soccer coach, and I started working camps literally after I got out of college. And two of the first people that I met were 2 girls that were from Paramus High School. And they were from Paramus High School, and they were with a group of girls that were from that town, and it was wonderful to be at the camp with them and meeting Val Esposito and Kelly Williams for the first time. It was interesting, you know. I mean, they were interesting. They were interesting 4th grade kids at the time. That's how far back it goes. They were interesting kids. They were great players, and from the moment we kind of chatted, you know, it was a really great thing. And who would have known, you know, 9 years from that moment that, you know, I'd be sitting in the Esposito house in Clifton, New Jersey, talking about Val coming to Felician. But now, you fast forward 1 more year after that year at Bergen Catholic, I get the job at Immaculate Heart Academy, and I meet another now future Golden Falcon. And at the time, I was coaching her sister. I was coaching Sarah Ouellette, not Mary Kate Ouellette, but I was coaching Sarah Ouellette. And again, a relationship formed with that young girl who was in 7th or 6th grade at the time, excuse me. And she would come to all practices and games, and I watched her play club soccer. And as good as Sarah was, I knew that this Mary Kate was gonna be a pretty good player. So, you know, there's another young lady that's gonna eventually become a Golden Falcon. To this day, I don't think I've ever seen a soccer player, a girls soccer player that had to throw in like Mary Kate Ouellette. But now I fast forward 3 more years after I finished at Immaculate Heart. I got a job at Academy of the Holy Angels, and while I didn't coach anybody at that school that ended up coming to Felician, there was a rival school, 2 rival schools in that league that we were in, the old BPSL, the Bergen Passaic Scholastic League. And I see a lot of people, especially in that back table, nodding about the BPSL. And the BPSL, at the time, Holy Angels was a member of that league, and we were back in the King Division, and we played schools like Eastern Christian, and we played Pompton Lakes. Well, Eastern Christian had a couple of sisters who were pretty good players, and their father was the athletic director and the girls basketball coach at that school. And I met the King family back then, and again, a relationship formed that, you know, that's Sandy King. She's a pretty special player. And that Laura King, she's a pretty good player too. So we're gonna tuck that away, and we're gonna think some time is gonna go by, but maybe those girls are gonna come if I ever get another opportunity. And then we played Pompton Lakes, man, there was this really good center midfielder. This girl, Leah Morin, was really good running up and down the field, controlling plays. I didn't really, think about having to mark that kid, and then even obviously thinking about having to mark Sandy King when I was a high school coach. Those were some difficult times. Those were two really tough players to have to deal with. And boy, if I ever could get that on a team of mine, I'd be really excited about that. So again, we tucked that away. We tucked that away as about players that are going to maybe someday play college soccer, maybe play for me. And one of my last years at Holy Angels, we played Northern Highlands in a county tournament. Northern Highlands is a school that's up in Allendale, really good soccer school, and I'm very blessed right now to say that my wife's a teacher at Northern Highlands. And there was this girl who was, again, really terrific player, left-footed player, played up front, scored a lot of goals, really fast, tough player. Man, Cassie Carpenter, that kid is really, really good. Man, I would really like to get that kid, if I ever got a college job, I would really like to get that kid and play for me. So now, as luck would have it, we get the job at Felician, and I start as a part-time assistant coach for women's basketball and softball. And Bob Simmons says to me, I think we're going to start, we really want to think about starting women's soccer. And I know that you've coached soccer, really had a lot of success in high school soccer. I think I would like you to be our first women's soccer coach. Great. And now that memory Rolodex kicks in. And man, King, Esposito, Morin, Ouellette, all of those players, they're coming into my head. And now I meet this crazy girl from Lyndhurst. This crazy girl from Lyndhurst, man, when she runs, man, you know that she's running because her arms are flailing and she's knocking kids down. And when everybody knew where Stacy Sedembrino was on the field because she left her mark all over the place, right? Yes, exactly. So then I'm able to go, and I go to Ossining High School, and I go to New York, and I'm able to talk to this crazy guy, this guy named Dan Ritchie, who was the girls' basketball coach at Ossining High School. And he introduces me to two young ladies, one who didn't come to Felician, and one, thankfully, who did, in Pam Barsha. And going to watch Pam play high school basketball and soccer was an unbelievable experience because this guy, Dan Ritchie, who was the girls' basketball coach, was certifiable. But they also had another guy. They had a guy who was a fan, who would watch every game at that school, and this guy, Aldo, would run up and down. He would run up and down the bleachers, and he was the #1 fan for the girls at Ossining. So there's another person that we're gonna put in. I coached softball for a long time, and I coached club softball, and I met another young lady when I started coaching softball. And I met Tamara Tinagero when she was a junior in high school, and she guested, actually. She came to a tournament that I was coaching at. She wasn't on our team, but she came and played that one weekend for us. And there was another relationship that was formed. And again, if I ever got this job, what would I think about? Would that be a young lady? And Tamara comes. What I'm trying to say is that one of the blessed things about this 2001 women's soccer team is that they were from this area. I knew all these kids. I knew all these kids before they became this team. So when we started, it was not like having to build a team. This team was already built. And sometimes they had, as Val and Stacy are kind of kidding right now, they had serious rivalries when they were in high school, and those two did not like each other. But man, as soon as they came to Felician, thank you. But when they came to Felician, it was like a glove. And we had some success in those first couple of years, but it was nothing like the success we had in 2001. And the ride that we went on, getting to the finals of the conference tournament for the first time, reaching the final of Region 10, being one win away from making the national championship, all were wonderful moments. And it's really an unbelievable pleasure to be standing up here tonight and going to step away from the athletic director hat for a moment and be able to embrace the fact that I coached these young women. Some of them when they were real young, but as college players, because they were clearly, without a doubt, and I've been at Felician a long time and I've coached a lot of teams, but there has never been a team like the 2001 women's soccer team. So with that being said, I'd like to bring up again Dr. Prisco so that we can properly induct this 2001 women's soccer.
Come on up, ladies. Let's go. Go on this side. Congratulations. Come on up, everyone. And you all get to look beautiful, too. This is really something. Yeah, it was great. It was a great story. Thanks for sharing. I am honored to induct the 2001 women's soccer team into the Felician University Athletic Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Just so I do this properly, I want to recognize, because all three of my assistant coaches are here tonight. Vito Bavaro, Brad Davidson, and Jamie Davidson deserve a big round of applause as well. But the members of the team, again, you are extremely special and you deserve every bit of this award tonight. And I believe, are you speaking tonight? Are you speaking? You're speaking tonight. Val Esposito is going to do the honors.
Okay. First of all, we'd like to extend congratulations to all of the other inductees. Those are some pretty impressive resumes, and we are honored to be standing up here with all of you tonight. Congratulations. You guys don't have to do that after everything I said. We'd like to thank the committee for even considering us, and a huge thank you to Mark Mentone goes out for all the hard work and time that you put in to ensure this evening goes off without a hitch. Thank you, Mark. We'd also like to thank Felician for giving us a great education and preparing us to step out into the world as productive members of society. Well, most of us. To our coaches, we wouldn't be here without you guys. Vito, it's a miracle we even competed, let alone win games, with the fresh bread, meats, and cheeses you brought beforehand. Jamie, thanks for always being there to run with some of us when we were dragging. We won't mention any names, but you know who you are, Mayor. Brad, we spent a good deal of time pushing your buttons and making fun of you, but you continued to always be in our corner and support us. Thank you. Most importantly, JR, there is so much we could say, but in short, you truly knew how to lead this group. It takes a special person to successfully navigate.
Excuse me. Everybody's laughing because you use the word short. I just want to say, it would have been a better word choice.
Oh, it was very selectively chosen. Okay.
Gary, was that you that laughed?
It takes a special person to successfully navigate a group of girls, mostly from northern New Jersey, to get them to put their attitudes aside and come together to make a little noise on the soccer field. You rarely yelled, but when you did, we knew you meant business. We can count on one hand the amount of times we dreaded going to practice. And even though we worked really hard, you knew how to put a fun spin on it. I think it was all the singing you used to do at practice. We won't thank you, however, for 5v2 drills before games, pairing some of us up with Stacy and Kristen Harden during running drills. 18 years later, we still hear Laura complain about it. Or for putting our lives in danger, driving us around in the Felician vans. Oh, and how about those gourmet gourmet dinner options at truck stops after games, and 6 a.m. practices, which I may or may not have shown up for sometimes. But in all seriousness, thank you for recruiting this group of girls. As I noted before, most of whom were Jersey born and bred. It still amazes me what this team was able to do with local talent right in Felician's backyard. JR, it's impressive that you were able to bring the talent you did, and quite frankly speaks volumes about the person and coach you are, because we all came to this school to play for you. This team was one of a kind, the best combination of ferocity and fun. So let's talk a little bit about them now. As the saying goes, it's not the size of the fight in the dog, but the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. I think that phrase was written with this team in mind. This team never gave up. We went to regionals with 4 starters hurt and still put up a good fight all the way to the end. We had no nets. You heard me, no nets. We had no field. We literally drove around looking for places to practice. Some of us getting pulled over by cops along the way. Pam. Again, I reiterate, we had no nets. Yet Nella still had almost 120 saves. How? We weren't practicing. Bravo, Nella. A roster of 17, not 19 girls. Who? Okay. No one would have thought this team would have made it to a regional tournament. Not because we didn't have the talent, but because we barely had subs. In many of our games, teams were making line changes, and we had one person on the bench. But did that stop us? No. I recall Kelly Williams playing striker. Kelly was a sweeper. She played all the way in the back. I recall Kelly Williams playing striker, and I found myself somewhere in the middle of the field with Stacy and Leah hitting people just for sport. That was this team. Fiercely competitive, and if you were going to beat us, you were going to earn it. And even in our losses, we always tried to find a silver lining. After a very tough loss, JR was reflecting on the game and asked us if there was anything we wanted to add. Cassie stated that we may have lost on the field, but we were still the better looking team. We always look for silver linings. Some practices, we didn't even use balls. Which, while I'm on that subject, who's gonna fess up about telling JR that we all went out to celebrate Pam, Leah, Mary Kate, and Anna's birthdays as a team? And for those of you in the room that don't know, we all went out as a team. The whole team went out. The next day, JR shows up at practice with only corner flags and no balls. And we ran, and we ran, and we ran. And we want to know who the person was that told him what we were doing the night before. He had a narc. Oh, and we won't thank you for that practice either, JR. Although maybe Hardin would. But as I was saying, we secured the conference final with, I think, 11 healthy players, no subs. It may have even been 10. But we persevered game after game, and we loved every second of it. This team was the true definition of a team. We lived and died as a team. We ate together in the cafeteria every night. We hung out together. We studied together. Some of us cheated off of each other. When it needed to be done, we called each other out. We're still doing it today, almost 20 years later. We ran as a pack, and that's why we were such a powerhouse on the field. So the last thank you we want to give tonight is to our teammates. Thank you guys for giving us the wins, the memories, and a few more years of playing competitive soccer and getting our aggression out, which unfortunately many of our spouses are bearing the brunt of today. Thank you.